can't go on like before, but can we still be friends? We had
My father was a Norwegian sailor, and he decided to leave ship in Port Pirie when he met my mother. And my mother belonged to a farming family in the Wandera district. My father established a woodyard in Port Pirie, and that was mainly his life, although he used to go out in the forest, Warabra forest, to chop wood for bakeries. He used to have a contract to supply wood to the various bakeries up there. So.
I'll start the story by saying that we were unfortunate, sadly, that my mother passed away 10 days after our birth, being triplets there. I think that was the sad part of our life to start, but however, we all got through wonderfully well, 3 healthy babies she had, so we were fortunate there. My father carried on as he normally would have. He was devastated to start with, of course, the shock, and we were sort of then come up as, I guess, my father was a very interested person in gardening, in gardens there, but he believed in not so much in the flower side of it there. He sort of tended to like cacti plants and fish. He had a wonderful large fish pond that he sort of had a lot of the water lilies on that pond and some beautiful fish in the pond as well. Plus there were lots of other ponds that he had. They're very colourful. He also had many, many bird aviaries with some magnificent birds there. There was, I would say, almost hundreds of birds there, and he actually had as well an area where he had some very rare ferns and things. As well as that, he was a manufacturing jeweller through the day, and he enjoyed that life there. He had come from a family himself. His father was an upholsterer out in the Norwood area, which he did do a lot of upholstery work with the top brand gear that he made there. But he had lots and lots of people just coming to see the garden in the era of the late 20s and 30s, their 1930s. So you want me to tell the story of what happened to one of my father's cactus plants there. He did have a very, very lovely cactus that he was very pleased with, and it was about 4 inches in diameter and about 3 feet in height. So we decided one day, the 3 girls, that we would sort of take the hair clip from our hair and put our initials on this cactus plant. And therefore we did there, and when he came home and saw the initials scratched on that beautiful plant, he was most upset about it there. I'm not sure what the punishment was, but I think we were sort of not very popular for a long time, and the plant never grew out of it there.
I was born in Port Pirie in September 1922, and I had all my education up there, and during my younger years, we had the Great Depression really from the time of 1929 to about 1933, when there seemed to be a lot of poverty and things were very hard for people at that time. After that, probably I left school probably when I was 15 and started work for John Darling and Sons, who were grain and shipping merchants. And I started at the magnificent fee of 15 shillings a week, which would be $1.50 today. And I asked for a 2 and 6 rise after about 15 months, and they wouldn't give it to me, so I went elsewhere. I became a cadet at the Port Pirie Technical School, but I got sick of that after a while, and In 1939 I came to Adelaide and had a job with a firm down at Port Adelaide. I boarded at Semaphore, and then in 1941 I joined the army, and in late 42 I met Nanny outside our camp at Cheltenham, and that's how I come to meet Nanny. I decided to line up with the wharfies where there was a lot of ships in the port, and we got a job. There's a gang of 4 of us, and because they wanted a left-hand shoveler, I got the job because I put my hand. He said, "I want a left-hand shoveler," and I put my hand up because I always batted in cricket, playing left-handed. Most of the time I was stationed up in the Darwin area, in the Darwin theatre war, where there was a lot of bombing going on, and they expected the Japanese to invade us. But we were up there, but I think they sent us up there. I've always been of this opinion. They never thought we would survive if an invasion had occurred. So I've always been a little bit shirty on that idea. But, so that was really most of the army life. I shell up the barrel, fired it, and nothing happened. And he bent down and he said, "All clear." They put another shell up, and the shell come out through the middle of the barrel, and the shell's flying around all the revetments, and we were ducking for cover because the shell happened to hit all the various sides and was bounding around in the revetment area where we were supposed to be protected. Here in prior to 48 was an old army camp, and the Housing Trust built 61 houses, and to be able to get a house you had to have a family, so that everybody that came in was very young with a small family at least. As far as supplies were concerned, everything was very difficult: timber, iron ore, cement, very difficult to get. And to make my cement pass, I knew a chap that was in the cement game, and the only way I could get cement was to buy sweepings off the wharf. And that enabled me to make my cement pass. To get cement, iron or timber, you had to have a special reason, or you'd have to have a permit to obtain such materials, because everything was so short in supply after the war.
Over the years, I think people have shifted and the houses have been resold 2 or 3 times. It's still a very quiet area, and we find a lot of the places are also rented houses now there. And I think the actual area has sort of more or less no children around now. It's mostly grown-ups, and people that are selling at this stage now are usually going into retirement villages there, or they want something smaller. So we have been fortunate. We've had wonderful neighbours. The children have all grown up together, and they've also sort of gone to the same school, and now these children that we saw grow up are now grandparents themselves there.
We came here in 1948. At the time we were considered building a house at Beaumont, but because of the difficulties in getting materials, we decided to take this place instead of building. When we came in on a very wet day, there was a modest type of road built, but all the rest was just pure earth, and as it was a very wet day, conditions were very muddy as we shifted in.
Around, so I thought she's never going to settle down, so I actually had to catch the bus up to the Roxy Theatre, which was about 2 miles further on, and by the time I sort of found my way to the bus stop, which was probably our area we had never been in before, but however I was able to get the dummy, the chemist open, I think for an hour at night time those days, and at the time of coming home their Diane was fast asleep and she would have never missed a dummy there, so that was the first time I moved out of the house, and it was only a few hours after he'd shifted in.
What we'd do, we'd sleep one night in the car and the next night in the motel and so on. And but one time we went to near Ballarat, and we went to a fishing spot, and we camped there for the night in the car, and of course we were near the sort of shelter shed, and but Nanny saw these lights coming along and just got very frightened, but they were fishermen with their lanterns going down to the river to do their fishing. And we had a standard 8 car, and of course when he'd grown up a bit this time, and the 4 of them used to just sit in the back seat and fight and argue the point, you know, one had too much room or otherwise. But we had a dog, and we took this dog with us up to Pirrie this particular occasion, and halfway down the Pirrie we stopped and we let the dog out, and the dog started racing all over the paddock, and we had to wait around until we could catch him again before we could resume our journey. But we thought we were going to lose him. But Ian wanted to take this dog to Port Pirie with him, so we did. All the 3 girls would be all dressed alike, and we would walk from here to the Anzac Highway to catch a bus. And we would quite often go window shopping in Adelaide, but in those days all the stores used to cater for people to window shop, in that all their windows would be decorated up with fashion. But we always used to buy things to suit the 3 girls, and quite often they were always dressed alike.
To that fact that they sort of had their own individual friends, but always at the end of the day it was if one of them wasn't around, they would be, where are they, whoever, which one it would have been. I think they were all very close, but because we had a lot of little ones around in this area here, they sort of had very close to home they were, and they would just sort of do their own thing, but most of the time was spent home, of course.
And they've got a number of big pillars there, and Ian must have started to hide behind one as a deadment, I presume, and next minute Kathleen had lost him and thought he'd gone off in another bus. So Kathleen will take the story out.
Well, I actually got myself rushing down to the next bus stop, which was on a main corner, and it was about 2 main streets I had to run, and with the lights to get across, and I made the bus stop, but the bus was just pulling out. It appears that he took fright when he saw me rushing away. He thought I was running away from him, apparently, but instead of that I was thinking he was on the bus there, and I was trying to catch up with the bus. But however, they decided then the policeman must have come along and saw him distressed, and he sort of took him back then to the police station in Adelaide and waited till we sort of had actually made some arrangements, inquiries to pick him up, which we did do by about 6:15 there, and he wasn't a very happy boy. I think he thought that I had run away from him. But everything worked out well, and they even had a little write-up in our Sunday Mail paper that telling the story there. The only thing was, I think they made a couple of mistakes there. They said that I gave apparently when he was found and we collected him, I was so excited about it that I gave the finder actually a hug and a kiss, but to my knowledge I didn't do that. I was so upset in myself there. I think the paper was wrong saying, not that it mattered actually, but...
Every Friday night I'd always bring them home a small toy or a book, so they always had something to look forward to when I came home. And it's amazing.
But also you had their little savings bank boxes, and you used to give them your money to put in the box there. But each baby would have their central savings bank box there, and they always looked forward to every fortnight putting their own pennies, that would have been those days, into that money box there.
Oh, would you still love me? Answer me, baby. Yes, I would.
I started to do the tapestries in about 1980s. We had a holiday house, and it was sort of something to do while we were sort of away from the beach area actually there, and that's where I started with the long stitch, and then I sort of more or less concentrated on the pictures. You would buy the frames and get the picture completed, and we would sort of put them in the frame ourselves. And I then went into doing some counted across stitch there, which were much smaller ones, and I would have been doing that for about 10 years. Then I started doing the knitting there, so I really didn't get back to the pictures, but I was able to sort of do all variations of pictures, whether it be the flowers. I love doing the houses, so I was always looking at the new packs that would come out, just to sort of get some idea of what I would do next there. So I must say I've enjoyed doing that as well. I'm a person that loves doing things. The first clowns, I think I was doing those possibly for about 12 months there, and I made about 4 or 5 of them. I was actually doing them at the spare time that I had, so sometimes I didn't get onto them for days, but it was quite a lengthy job doing them, because I like it all, it had to be exactly right. And then
well, you do them during the afternoon while I was working on crossword puzzles.
I've sort of enjoyed coming into my craft area there and just sitting quietly and listening to the radio just for a couple of hours through the afternoon. I started doing Bobo the Clown about 3 years ago, and made several of them actually. In fact, Stephanie has one of them. Being a triplet myself, that why not make triplets there? So we've got Samantha, Susie, and Sonny is the boy twin there, a triplet. This is my collection of bears that started about 8 months ago, and I was collecting one every fortnight. I haven't missed a week. There I've kept my promise that I would get right through to bear 40. Well, I love them all, but I think this one is the one I'm perhaps putting in front.
But I use this as my resting space after I've been working in the garden. I often retire here and just have a quiet little rest. I sit on the back swing and watch them, and depending on the yard, in one area the fans can be whizzing around quite strongly and others are hardly moving. It's just to show you, the wind comes in gusts. It's not always even over the whole yard.